Really?
And that ain't good.
Yeah. Miserable track record.
I don't think Kamala will ever hold public office again.
Better not.
I don't think you can come back from. It wasn't that she was outfoxed.
Lost,
it wasn't that she lost. I think you can certainly lose an election and run a good election.
Mel Gibson and Tyrus just did something no one saw coming, going straight at Kamala Harris in a way that's got everyone talking and feels like the internet might need a moment to catch its breath, blending that bold, Braveheart-style intensity with a late-night comedy vibe while Kamala ends up right in the center of it all. And if you thought you'd already seen peak political drama, this takes it to a whole new level, as Hollywood-style energy collides with cable news firepower, making it clear that Mel and Tyrus didn't just speak up, they completely shook the entire Kamala narrative.
Listen to what Mel Gibson just said about Kamala Harris.
She got the IQ of a fence post.
Let's fact check that. Can you point to something in your life that you think was a mistake that you've learned from?
I mean, I've made many.
Greg, the teleprompter went up and they cheered too long.
Yeah.
And she panicked because all she could remember, she couldn't remember the connection word. So she panicked. This ain't close, I'm telling you.
Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You'll be glad you did later. Mel Gibson didn't ease his way into politics. He came in full force, like someone realizing real life has gotten wilder than anything Hollywood can write. And honestly, listening to Kamala Harris sometimes feels like sitting through a motivational talk where the speaker loses track of the point halfway through, but still expects applause at the end.
Track record, no policies to speak of.
And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
So when Mel Gibson finally reached his limit with all that confusion, it wasn't quiet or subtle, it felt dramatic, like someone shouting cut right in the middle of a live broadcast. And honestly, you can see where he's coming from. This is a guy who spent years yelling at imaginary armies on foggy battlefields, and even he's left wondering, what on earth is Kamala Harris doing? And when someone like him is asking that, you know something feels a little off.
VP Harris, she won't go to the border, probably because she'd rather take the magic school bus to the moon.
You guys are gonna see. You're gonna literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes.
Oh my goodness.
With your own eyes, I'm telling you, it is gonna be unbelievable.
With your own eyes.
Mel Gibson isn't sugarcoating anything this time. He's done playing nice. This is someone who's been through scandals, studio drama, and all kinds of Hollywood chaos, so he's not easily shaken. If Hollywood felt like the Wild West, then Washington looks like the unnecessary sequel, and Mel's the cowboy stepping in and calling it exactly how he sees it. A circus with no ringmaster in charge.
And they range from, you know, if you've ever parented a child, you know you make lots of mistakes.
He kicks things off like he's pitching a movie, America, as the biggest blockbuster ever, and then wonders who's directing it, with Kamala Harris somehow turning the script into a confusing riddle wrapped in forced enthusiasm. Every speech feels like it has an uplifting soundtrack but no real story behind it. Mel Gibson isn't even angry, he's just puzzled, saying her leadership is like that one friend who loses track of the story halfway through but keeps going anyway. You sit there nodding, waiting for things to make sense, but instead you hear the same few lines repeated with different expressions. Politics used to feel structured, but now it's more like improv night at the Capitol, and Kamala Harris speeches come off like stitched-together clips, part poetry, part puzzle, and a little bit all over the place.
I have a Glock.
I've become friends with school shooters.
When they asked her about the gun,
Yes.
and yeah, I got a Glock. What kind?
Yes.
And her answer was,
Yeah.
And Those were invented by nervous white people around black people.
Then there's Tyrus, built like a fridge and known for saying exactly what's on his mind with no filter. When he calls something out, it lands like a verbal body slam. He describes Kamala Harris's optimism in his own blunt way, comparing it to a high-budget stand-up act that somehow forgot the punchlines. He says watching her speak feels like seeing a slow-motion car crash, where everyone acts like they understand what's going on but is quietly hoping someone steps in and calls it. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson agrees from the sidelines, likening Washington to a struggling movie studio where executives pour in millions trying to convince people a flop is actually brilliant. And in his view, that's what politics has started to feel like, more about marketing than meaning. with the audience no longer fully buying in.
Set social media on fire with his blistering assessment of Kamala Harris. He said she has an appalling track record, no policies to speak of, and she's got the IQ of a fence post. Is Mel Gibson too big to be cancelled? Does he even care? He produces his own stuff these days, doesn't he?
He also financially and emotionally supported Robert Downey Jr. when he was dealing with his addiction problems. And
he's not wrong. Every Kamala Harris speech feels like watching a stunt with no safety net. Exciting, confusing, and a little terrifying all at once. Mel Gibson calls it a tragic comedy, where everyone acts like the emperor is wearing Armani, but he's clearly in pajamas. Tyrus dubs it the Kamala paradox. She's everywhere and nowhere at once, and her speeches sound like motivational fridge magnets arranged by a toddler with glitter glue. Digging deeper, you start to wonder if the problem isn't Kamala herself, but the script she's following or improvising from. Somewhere in the White House, a teleprompter is probably asking what it did wrong. Bureaucratic improv theater at its absolute finest.
There's worse things that you can say to people.
Yeah.
But I help people who harm people. God bless, good night, that's my time. That's what...
Tyrus doesn't hold back. He compares Kamala Harris's political career to that coworker who keeps getting promoted for energy and potential, even though no one really knows what they do. If confidence counted as results, he jokes, Kamala would be president of the galaxy by now. Their humor lands hard, but fair, smart, sharp, observational comedy. Kamala nails the performance, the tone, and the sparkle, but forgets the story. It's like a musical where everyone's singing, but nobody knows the lyrics. Tyrus adds his punchline. She's made millions of Americans nostalgic for silence.
First of all, she never saw the video.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not someone who describes a video.
Yeah.
That's someone that they handed this to her, and she was like, elephants? Oh, I'll take it from here. And then she went out there. And she was not drunk. She was hungover, because she's way worse when she's hungover. That was hungover because she kept saying the same thing over and over again. They surrounded, and then they formed a circle. And then they got together.
Mel Gibson almost spits out his drink laughing, but under the jokes there's a sharp point. Both he and Tyrus are showing that American leadership has turned more about image than action, promising change while stumbling through chaos and confusion. It's like political hypnosis disguised as inspiration. Mel, the man behind Braveheart, can't believe the same country that once valued courage and conviction now cheers for scripted chaos. At least my movies had editors, he mutters. Tyrus just grins. Hollywood went soft. Washington became its own parody. And right in the middle is Kamala, part hero, part comic relief.
No, we applaud people speaking their mind. There's certainly plenty of celebrities who are saying outrageous things about Donald Trump. So if Mel Gibson wants to share his thoughts, I think everyone can accept that, but probably not Hollywood.
Kamala Harris might not be laughing, but the audience can't help it. Sometimes surviving modern politics means treating it like a comedy. Mel Gibson and Tyrus aren't finished, they're just getting started. America's longest-running reality show keeps rolling, and Kamala is front and center. She steps up to the mic, smiling like she's about to reveal a miracle, but what comes out sounds like a riddle written by a poet who lost their thesaurus. Nell laughs. It's the kind of speech where every word feels weighty, only for the meaning to disappear faster than campaign promises.
Acting like we haven't known her for the last 4 years or 3. It feels like 50. It really does. It really does. And you could make, now they're making the argument the reason why she was the way she was because she had to lay in the cut so Biden could do his thing, and she had to watch, and then one day she decided to go down to him and say, hey, it's my time, and he's like, you're right, and he stepped aside, and she's this great, noble person. And you know what? Let's say this is all true. I'm willing to have a restart with Kamala. A complete restart. Maybe I've been wrong.
Tyrus jumps in, smirking like only he can, and dubs her style verbal jazz. Smooth, rhythmic, but with no real melody. The words sound nice, but they never hit the mark. Mel Gibson compares it to Hollywood's obsession with remakes, the same idea recycled and repackaged. That's what Kamala's speeches feel like. You don't remember the message, just the moment. All flash, all smiles, no real substance.
And every day, In the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
At least some people have their head on straight, like Mel Gibson here. So he comes out and says this about Kamala Harris.
Mel Gibson doubles down, saying Harris's whole political strategy feels like it came straight out of a marketing meeting. All style, zero substance. It's like someone watched The West Wing once and decided, yet that's leadership, he jokes. He calls it Instagram-style governance. Filtered, polished, perfectly captioned, and completely out of touch with reality. He and Tyrus riff on the idea of Harris hosting her own late-night show, The Vice Hour. Tune in, even if no one knows where it's headed. Then, as always, Mel shifts back to serious mode.
And we'll watch the next speech, and I'll go, Greg, I'm sorry I wasted your time on the show talking about it. So no matter how you dress that box up in ribbons and sprinkles, when you open it up, it's still full of incompetence.
What gets Mel Gibson riled up isn't Harris herself, it's what she stands for. A system that prizes charisma over clarity, where competence is swapped out for catchy slogans. She's the undisputed champ of polished confusion. He laughs, and together with Tyrus, they imagine her inner monologue mid-speech. Deep breath, hand gestures, say something that sounds wise but can't be fact-checked, smile, pause, and repeat. Mel delivers the knockout line. America's leaders used to inspire action. Now the playbook is simple. Keep everyone guessing so no one calls your bluff. They exchange a look, half amused, half alarmed, realizing they're not just roasting Harris, they're roasting the system that made her inevitable.
TMZ caught up with actor and filmmaker Mel Gibson, who reaffirmed his support for former President Donald Trump, and he had some sick burns for Vice President Kamala Harris. The reporter asked Gibson who he was going to vote for. After Gibson said that Kamala had the IQ of a fence post, demands were made for an immediate retraction and apology by the...
Mel Gibson ends with a heavy sigh. Somewhere along the way, politics stopped being about leadership and became all about likability, and Kamala Harris has mastered that game. She's not a policymaker, she's a performer. The cameras adore her. The crowd applauds. The words drift away, but the energy lingers. Tyrus just shrugs. Maybe that's the point. She's not trying to make sense, she's trying to make headlines. Confusion is the message. Mel chuckles one last time. In a world where every speech feels like an audition, maybe she's the only one who truly gets it. And maybe, just maybe, Mel Gibson and Tyrus aren't roasting Kamala at all. They're holding up a mirror. And for once, America can't look away.